Welcome to our Student Highlight Series. This program is a fireside chat where we invite you to slow down, listen deeply, and get to know the incredible students who are shaping the future of Native agriculture. Today, we are introducing Cynthia Wilson, a proud Diné Tribal citizen born and raised in the breathtaking landscapes of Monument Valley, Utah. Cynthia holds a Master of Science in Nutrition from the University of Utah and is a PhD candidate at UC Berkeley in Environmental Science, Policy, and Management. Her research explores Indigenous food, water, and land systems rooted in traditional knowledge.
I come from a very cultural and traditional background as a Navajo woman. My grandfather was a well-known medicine man and a healer practitioner in our community. And he knew a lot about the plant medicines, the lands, the water offerings, the songs. And without any schooling, he knew a lot of the stories based off creation narratives that drove our way of life teachings. And I always wanted to be in the healthcare system as a career. So when I went to undergrad, it was my first time introduced to nutrition as a field of study, like supplements. Coming from the reservation, we don't have access to like nutritional supplements or learning about all these other nutritional like produce in more detail. We don't have that education in high school either. So it was something new that was familiar based on my grandpa's teachings of plants, medicines, and cleansing that I've connected to as a field of study. And also nutrition was more educational than like being a doctor or a nurse, being more hands-on. As I got more into the field, I realized it was heavy in Western science and it was missing a lot of the traditional food knowledges that encompasses more than food as something we consume, but also food as a living, breathing being.
Could you expand on what you mean? Like, what does food mean to your community, and why is that important to you?
We think of food as a relative. When we relate to our food, we provide offerings. It's more of a reciprocal relationship, and not just food, also water, medicines, firewood, soil, and planting seeds in the ground, and also praying with our cooking tools that we harvest on the landscapes that we call on for rain and for a good growing season. There's more to our food systems. Well, it's not a food system, it's a way of life. I guess it's our food ways. These lifestyle teachings are Diné lifestyle teachings encompasses the relationship between under the soles of our feet, which is Mother Earth in relation to the universe, the cosmology above our head. And there's that direct relationship and everything that surrounds us. All living beings is in our stories, it's in our offerings, and it's in our lifeway teachings about how to sustain ourselves and not being dependent on what a lot of people depend on for modern lifeways, such as the machines, all kinds of infrastructure and development. Although a lot of that is useful, but I think learning about the land that you occupy as a Earth surface being, allows you to be more connected to your food, to the water, to the mountains, to the medicines. And that way, we live a comfortable lifestyle when we are replanted back in the ground. It's continuous lifestyle teachings.
So, how did you apply these ideas in your work, and what have you learned in the process so far?
After receiving my nutrition degree, I worked directly with a Native-led nonprofit and I launched a traditional foods program for 5 years. And that's where I've learned a lot of who I am, where I come from, and why I do what I do. I interviewed over 30 elders, Navajo elders. I engaged with over 60 farmers and food producers throughout the Four Corners region. And during COVID-19, during the pandemic, we did a lot of food and water tank distributions. And that's when I became involved and engaged at the community level. We did a lot of grassroots organizing, mobilizing, and fundraising to get immediate needs, priorities, and create opportunities for our elders and youth to engage in these cultural food teachings. So a lot of that practical work and also engaging in ceremonies, engaging in community meetings, engaging in public hearings about land access and challenges with colonial boundaries in place that divide us from our harvesting grounds or our ceremonial grounds. And a lot of these restrictions of land made me think more about the policies, that it's not just, even though as Native people, we have a lot of health disparities, such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and a lot of that is all because of our environmental intoxications and the way our lands are treated, the way our waters are treated. Especially on the Navajo reservation, we have a lot of uranium mines, oil fields, and coal mining that affected a lot of our community members here, causing respiratory issues. And a lot of these boundaries that force permitting that limits and cause like kinship mobility. It causes conflicts with kinship ties by being limited to head of households for livestock permits or even for hunting permits. It becomes competitive process that we have to follow by the federal government. So challenges like that breaks our communities apart, it breaks our families apart, and it breaks our lifeway teachings around food and how to gather as a community, share our food, grow our food together. So that learning about all that for 5 years in the community made me realize a lot of these social injustices on the ground is not because of the people, it's because of the policies in place, the permitting process that create these conflicts without the federal agencies knowing how it is to live on these lands, especially among rural landscapes, rural communities that lack the infrastructure and that lack the access to a lot of these resources. So those challenges is something that as an advocate, as a community organizer, decided to go back into school to study environmental science policy and management. And I decided to go back into my PhD program because I wanted to tell the story of the social injustices of our landscapes here among the Navajo Nation, adjacent to public lands, and also not just the Navajo Nation, but how tribes have moved across landscapes based on kinship mobility, but how even that was broken as well over time.
That sounds like incredibly important and rewarding work. So, from what you've experienced, what do you consider the most important thing you've learned so far?
But listening to the elders speak in our language and even engaging in ceremonies and just kind of connecting the dots of what's being said, the stories. One of the elders has told me that, you don't just look at the land as something that's in the distance, that's placed over there. They're saying they're saying land is a powerful thing. It's not just something to talk about. They're saying, think of the land as if you are Bear's Ears, as if you are the landscape. And I think that really shifted my perspective as kind of viewing the land as a distant physical being and me being separated as a human. But when he said, like, think of the land as if you are the Bear's Ears, buttes, it gave me a deeper responsibility as a human, being gifted as a voice and be gifted knowledge as an earth surface being to be a voice of the land and how to better be a steward of the land or engaging our communities to reconnect to those ancestral spaces that has been taken from us So I think every time I think about not just the land as the mountain, it's also similar as the water, the plants, the roots, from the roots all the way to the pollen. And a Navajo word also that has been shared with me is root. In our language, saying these words in our language have deeper meaning and connection. Um, when I think about root in our language, it's biketol, they say biketol benita, which means we are rooted. And I think of that, we are rooted to our moms through the umbilical cord, just as we are rooted to the land once we offer our umbilical cord to our home, to the ground, so that we remember where we come from. And it's usually to the sheep corral or the horse corral so that as we get older, we reconnect, we have that strong connection with livestock, with our lifeway teachings.
Thank you for sharing your journey so far. To close our conversation, I just wanted to ask, has TAF helped your academic journey at all?
Yeah, it takes a lot being a Native student going into academia because you have to be an advocate of yourself in everything that you do. And I think having a voice to stand your ground, and that's where mentorship comes into hand and talking to people that are in your shoes. And I think that's where TAF is a good resource in not only engaging with the board members, but also the fellow students, because we're all going through the same challenges with academia, but also in supportive of each other in the work that we do. I came into my PhD program with a lot of challenges regarding mentorship and advisory, and losing an advisor, and also which comes with losing funding resources. So I feel like TAF being available to Native students, especially in graduate program, it saved me from not continuing to like pursue my PhD program because I lost a mentor and I didn't have funding. And TAF gave me the resources I need to continue my education. And also it gave me mentorship through the board. I think what's most impactful was talking with the board members and hearing about their academic journey and their engagement in the community, and understanding the challenges that I go through in academia, and also the work that we do in the community is very helpful as a student. And it allows me to know that that's supported in that way, and that there's resources available for me to pursue my education in a way that I can focus on what I am interested, or what I apply to get done, which is writing a book and telling the story of my community in a way that I feel supported and connected through this fellowship.
Through this series, we aim to bring you closer to our students by highlighting their voices, their visions, and the vital issues they're addressing. Our fellowship exists to nurture and amplify leaders like Cynthia, who are grounded in community and who are committed to strengthening Native agriculture. So, by investing in our fellows, we're investing in a future that is more just, sustainable, and rooted in community. These are the stories of resilience, innovation, and leadership. Thank you for joining us. To see more of our student programming, please like and subscribe. You can also learn more about TAF programming and our fellows by visiting us on our website at taffellows.org. That's TAF fellows.org.